Welcome to Study 10 in Mark's Gospel as we go through Search the Scriptures, our 3-year study through the Word of God. Today in study number 10, we are going to cover Mark chapter number 4, verse 35 through chapter number 5 and verse 20. And today we're going to attempt to answer 3 different sets of questions. The first one being this, taken from Mark chapter 4, verses 35 through 41. What were the disciples surprised at in Jesus, and what was he surprised at in them? And what was he both testing by leading them into such an experience, and why did this miracle mean more to them than anything that they had seen Jesus do up to that point? Second question from chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. Contrast men's way of treating the demoniac with what Jesus did for him. And in which way is the power of evil active in my life being dealt with? And the last question, why did the people plead with Jesus to leave their region, and why did Jesus leave the healed demoniac behind? And what may be the best form of witness in a home or neighborhood that seems not to want Christ at all? Well, let's look at Mark chapter 4, beginning with verse number 35, and we will go all the way through chapter 5 and verse 20 today. Mark 4:35. That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side," being the other side of the lake. And leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him, and a furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Now Mark chapter 5, beginning with the first verse. They went across the lake to the region of Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. But he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart, and he broke the irons on his feet, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he'd cry out, and he'd cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and he fell on his knees in front of him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." And then Jesus asked him, "What's your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. And a large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside, and the demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." And he gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. And those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and the countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. And those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told about the pigs as well. And then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. And as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but he said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all of the people were amazed. Question number 1. What were the disciples surprised at in Jesus, and what was he surprised at in them in chapter 4, 35 through 41? And what was he both testing by leading them into such an experience? And why did this miracle mean more to them than anything that they had seen Jesus do thus far? Well, the disciples were amazed at the power and the authority of Jesus, while he was amazed at their lack of faith. I mean, after everything that they had already witnessed in ministry, they still had a lack of faith. Up to this point, Jesus had been reaching into the life-threatening conditions of the lives of other people. But this storm storm threatened the disciples. This was no longer about other people and threats against other lives. Now it was personal. It's one thing to have faith for other people in the circumstances of other people, but it's something else to have faith in the midst of our own trials. Second question from chapter 5. Contrast men's way of treating the demoniac with what Jesus did for him, and in which way is the power of evil active in my life or your life being dealt with? Well, men, it seems to me, tend to marginalize those things and those people that they fear and they don't understand. The power of God, on the other hand, goes to the heart of the matter and it deals with it. It confronts rather than marginalizes threats. Evil thrives in my life when I marginalize it and when I pretend that it isn't there. It's when I bring it front and center that God can deal with it in my life. The same would hold true for you as well. The third question, why did the people plead with Jesus to leave their region, and why did Jesus leave the healed demoniac behind? And what may be the best form of witness in a home or neighborhood that seems not to want Christ? Well, the people saw Jesus really as a threat to their existence. They'd already lost a herd of pigs. They had seen someone that they had marginalized all of a sudden now become a powerful voice in their community. They feared what might come next. When Jesus left the demoniac behind, he left behind a powerful witness that would not stop in his own city but spread the gospel to at least 9 other cities. And he truly would not hide his light in a basket, as was spoken of earlier in Mark, but he had to set it on a lampstand for everybody else to see. The elevation of the outcast is one of the best ways to spread the gospel. There's nothing better than a rags to riches story when it comes to spreading good news. And the story of the demoniac was certainly a rags to riches story. I hope this study today has been a blessing to you. God bless as you enjoy the rest of your day.